Dusty Crew. Good morning, USA.
Good morning, sports fans. Mac, it's a wonderful Saturday morning in Syracuse, New York. Rolled out of bed, rolled out of breakfast, had my favorite fruit juice of all, and I just wanted to wonder what your favorite fruit juice is.
I think I gotta go with the simple answer. I'm gonna go apple juice. You know,
Okay.
Can't really go wrong. It's like, don't want to have it all the time.
Yeah.
But like once in a while, it doesn't hurt. It's a little tasty treat.
My favorite fruit juice, apple juice as well. But if orange juice is freshly squeezed, you best believe I'm getting that.
That's true.
But I can't do that fake artificial flavor stuff. It's just way too strong, way too gross for me. So apple juice is my go-to.
I gotcha.
It's been almost 2 weeks since the Super Bowl concluded.
I know. Yeah, we're going through some football withdrawal here.
Football withdrawals. But let's talk about it a little bit. Let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk about how the 49ers lost. Let's talk about how the Chiefs won again.
Sure.
Let's go from there.
Yeah, the 49ers were, I think, a 3-point favorite going into this game. It was truly a very hyped-up game for the entire week. There was a lot of coverage with the media there, and there was a lot of Taylor Swift fandom involved in this. So and this was the most watched United States broadcast ever since the moon landing in 1969. Yes.
Wow.
So the most watched television broadcast ever. So everyone was watching this game. I really wanted the 49ers to win. And I know I was the only person at our Super Bowl party that wanted it.
Yep, the only person. They're your third favorite team, right?
Yeah, I do rank teams, my three in this order from bottom to top: 49ers, Packers, Giants.
Yeah. Unlike you, I wasn't rooting for the 49ers. I also wasn't rooting for the Chiefs. I had no personal connection to this game other than I just wanted it to be a good, fun football game.
Yeah. It's less stressful that way.
It was a good defensive game, but I just still found it very boring to watch. I wasn't super invested. The craziest part about the game was that for the most part of the entire game, Jawan Jennings was like the biggest bet to win MVP. And the Chiefs won in overtime.
That was something.
Yeah.
I thought it got off to an interesting start. Brock Purdy, or was it him or Christian McCaffrey that had that opening drive fumble?
That was McCaffrey.
That was McCaffrey, right. So it started off with the fumble, then Mahomes gets the ball, and then they can't put anything on the board, and it's like a slow start from there.
Game. It was 0-0 after the first quarter.
Yeah, and it was 3-10 at halftime in favor of the Niners.
49ers, they lost their third Super Bowl appearance in a row.
Yeah.
They had another 10-point lead that they fumbled away, akin to McCaffrey's fumble in the first quarter.
Yeah. Who had an excellent game, by the way.
He had an all right game. What do you think it's going to take for the 49ers to get over this hump? Because they're getting so close every time, and in the playoffs, in the big moment, they're just always finding ways to, choke it away. I mean,
it's about consistency. I think going into it, their defense is very strong, at least for the first half. But the problem is because their offense lets up, the Chiefs are able to tire out their defense. It's a good strategy that they have. And then obviously, Dre Greenlaw getting hurt really hurt them in the end.
That was
I don't know
very.
if you saw the video.
I remember
Fred Warner going
that happened live.
No, yeah.
I saw that happen live. I was the only one who caught it, and I went, "Oh my God, this guy's down."
Yeah.
And that's when I really knew that the Chiefs would find a way to win this game because I think it was 10-0 at that point. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it was already 10-0.
I think it was fourth quarter that happened, so it was a little.
I thought it was way earlier in the game, but
maybe.
That doesn't matter. I think the biggest thing that the 49ers need to do in order to get over the hump is move on from Brock Purdy.
You think so?
I mean, he's an all right quarterback. I think he's par for the course. I don't think you're going to get much more out of him other than just throwing checkdowns and just letting Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk run the ball 75 yards for a touchdown. And there's some interesting quarterbacks in the market right now.
Yeah, it's a very nice story with Brock Purdy.
Being
Mr. Irrelevant and coming this far to play in the Super Bowl. So I understand why a lot of people are on his side, but I kind of agree. I think that if they have more of an established quarterback than him, and as you were saying, there's a lot of people that could be on the market. Kirk Cousins is a free agent.
That's who I think they should go after.
Really?
I mean, Kirk Cousins, he hasn't really proved that he can win big games, but he has the aura, he has the skill to do it, I think.
Justin Fields is going to hit the market.
Justin Fields is going to hit the market, depending on if the Chicago Bears draft Justin Fields. Sorry, not Justin Fields. If they draft Caleb Williams or not. But yeah, I do think the 49ers should move on from Brock Purdy and go after a quarterback who has much more skill and much more, I don't know how to say it, but like a lot more aura
I
than Brock
guess.
Purdy.
Because the way I see it, they're set in almost every position.
Yes.
I think that Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the league. George Kittle is at least like top
He's one of the best
tight ends.
He's one of the best tight ends in the league.
Yeah.
Deebo
Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, they're out there.
Well, Brandon Ayuk might not be around. I mean, there's some buzz floating around with him.
What his friend posted is very skeptical.
I believe it was his brother, but
His
yeah,
brother? Okay.
Potato. Very skeptical. I don't know what's going on with that little saga. It'd be interesting to see whether or not Ayuk is on a different team come September.
And you know, a lot of these older guys have been on the team a long time. You know, Nick Bosa and was it Trent Williams? Like their time's kind of like running out. I think to get a ring.
But
so
they did bring in Chase Young from the trade deadline from Washington. Do you think?
And before
I
that,
think they should re-sign him, reload the front line.
Well, they had lost 3 straight games before they signed him, so that was
yeah.
And pairing him up with Nick Bosa, I think, is like a really good thing.
Yeah. Let's flip to the winner side, the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Their 3rd Super Bowl in the last 5 years?
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years. I think it's safe to say they're a top 5 dynasty in NFL history at this point.
They're veering like Patriots territory.
I think they are as well. I don't think they're going to be done winning Super Bowls in the next decade. I see Patrick Mahomes winning a lot more MVPs and a lot more Super Bowl MVPs.
Yeah.
Okay, the biggest debate right now with Patrick Mahomes is where does he rank among top quarterbacks of all time?
In my opinion, right now he's 3, only behind Peyton Manning and Tom Brady.
And that's interesting because I actually have him 2nd behind Tom Brady and above Peyton Manning.
Really?
And I think it's mainly because he's already won more Super Bowls than Manning.
Yes.
He has less MVPs, but in a much less amount of time. Much better career averages, much better career, touchdown. All the stats are statistically, when it's all said and done, when Mahomes reaches Manning's service time, I think it's going to be way higher, way more.
Yeah, Peyton Manning played for, I believe, 18 seasons, and by that time, like, we could be considering Mahomes maybe even above Brady.
Mahomes will be the GOAT when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that Brady is enjoying his twilight era of being the GOAT. It won't stick around with him much longer. When it's all said and done, Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback ever. Brady 2nd, Manning 3rd.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky. I think we're very lucky we got to see a Brady Mahomes Super Bowl in our lifetime.
The one thing that I keep seeing on Twitter, on Instagram, everywhere is that Brady will always be the GOAT no matter what, because in the head-to-head, Brady is 2-0 against Mahomes in the playoffs, including a Super Bowl victory.
I guess, but I don't know if that's a fair comparison given that, Brady's at the end of his career.
Well, Brady was, in his 40s when he beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So there is an argument to be made that Brady may still be the GOAT after all. I personally don't buy into it, but I think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Travis Kelce. I mean, he's been the talk of the season all year with Taylor Swift.
Not his strongest game in the Super Bowl.
Not his strongest season.
Yeah.
It's clear to me that he's been, slowing down a lot.
Well, I think he's got 1 year. Has 1 year left in his contract.
You think he has 1 more year left?
I believe he's done after next year. If they three-peat.
I believe he's done after this year. I really could see him hanging up the cleats, moving on with Taylor Swift, going on all her tours, all her concerts. I would be a little bit surprised because he seemed very fatigued about playing football, and I could really see him hanging up the cleats with his brother Jason, who's 99% going to be done as well.
Yeah. Because they're enjoying being in front of the spotlight, and I think they'd be very good at commentating. Or if they still want to be involved with their teams, put them in the front office. Yeah.
Put them in the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Put them on the sideline. Be like a tight ends coach or strength and conditioning coach. But if Travis Kelce does walk, there's a clear lack of a number 1 target for Mahomes moving forward.
Yeah.
And
as of now, it'd be Rashee Rice, but they'd have to go get another receiver, I think.
They would need another receiver to complement Rashee Rice. And much like the quarterback market, there's a really interesting wide receiver market this offseason.
Yes. Mike Evans,
T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I really think they should go after T. Higgins, which in my opinion is where he will end up landing.
Yeah. Maybe Devontae Adams.
I
think he's going to get reunited with Aaron Rodgers, but
maybe Gabe Davis. From a Bills fan, you probably don't want Gabe Davis as your number 1, number 2. But who knows? Maybe Mahomes will propel him. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Chiefs are in a top 5 dynasty position right now. I think Mahomes is a top 2 quarterback of all time right now. And their biggest concern for me anyways is trying to find another receiver for Mahomes to play
Well,
with.
like Patrick Mahomes said a couple days ago, the Chiefs are never underdogs. They always seem to find their way out of like very tough positions. I don't think this is necessarily the Chiefs' strongest season. I think they hit a little bit of a slump in the November, December window, but they found their way out of it. You know, they managed to like fight through the
Adversity.
yeah. There's a word I was thinking of. The adversity.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they fought through that and they're on top again.
Let's put a pause on this past season and let's
Sure.
jump forward to next season.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of teams getting healthy in the offseason. A lot of teams reloading with new weapons,
Sure.
presumably from the draft or from free agency or from trades. Let's jump into our predictions for the division winners next year.
Yeah, let me pull mine up. You want to go back and forth?
Yeah, let's start with the AFC, and you want to just
Yeah,
you can just start it off.
Yeah, so winning the AFC South. Now, obviously, this is a huge year for C.J. Stroud. Maybe a comeback year for Trevor Lawrence next year. I think the Colts are going to win the AFC South next year.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. I know he only played, I think, 5 or 4 games. I loved what I saw from Anthony Richardson. I think next year is going to be a big breakout year for him. And if they re-sign Michael Pittman Jr., who I think is one of the most underrated wide receivers, I think they got a shot. They almost made the playoffs with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah,
They're
certainly.
They're a strong team. They're up and coming.
I like the idea that Anthony Richardson's going to break out. I like the idea that he'll be partnered with Pittman next season. As a Bills fan, I hope Pittman comes to Buffalo, but as I hope for the Colts that he stays with them. I disagree with the Colts winning. I haven't seen enough from Richardson to really be solid, to be comfortable with saying that the Colts are the outright winners. I think Houston will win the division. C.J. Stroud, almost unanimous Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. I personally think that he should have been in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, me too.
For taking the Houston Texans to a playoff spot. So
I think definitely over like Dak and Brock Purdy. I think he could have been in there.
Tank Dell, he got hurt late in the season. He's going to come back healthy. Nico Collins is going to come back. Dalton Schultz is a very solid tight end.
Yeah.
And you told me before we started recording that they're targeting
Saquon
Barkley.
Yeah. That'd be huge if they got
That'd be
him.
amazing.
I'd be sad, but
that would
be huge.
Saquon Barkley on the Texans would put them over the edge. But even without Saquon Barkley, I still think they can win the division with the crew they have.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the West. I think both of us have the same answer here. Kansas City.
Yep.
Right.
Chiefs Kingdom.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think they're going back to the Super Bowl next year.
Yep,
I just
as
don't
do
see
I.
it in any other way.
We just talked about them. Let's move on to the East.
Yeah.
I hope we have the same one. I hope we're seeing eye to eye on this.
Go ahead.
Buffalo Bills.
I do have
I
the
don't
Buffalo
see. I don't
Bills
see
winning.
Miami winning the division.
I don't see them going to the playoffs next year.
Miami.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
That's
I think
interesting.
it's a big regression year. I don't think they fire Mike McDaniel, but I think they come close. Like I just think they
see
missed
that.
the playoffs by maybe a game or two.
I think the Bills easily win the division this year, unlike this past season where it was fireworks at the very end. I think the Bills will draft a wide receiver in the draft. I think Josh Allen's going to love this new wide receiver. Hopefully they get a wide receiver. I think Dalton Kincaid's going to have a breakout year. I hope that Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs get on the same level from 2020, 2021 again. And I hope Khalil Shakir steps up. I really think that he could be a good slot receiver, wide receiver 2, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty obvious that the Bills will repeat as AFC East champions.
Yeah.
And then finally we have the AFC North. This one I think was the hardest decision for me.
This is hard. This was I think this is the most competitive AFC division this year, right?
Absolutely. You want to start us off first?
Yeah. So I mean, how could you not go with the Ravens, right? But take a pause there. There are only 2 quarterbacks that have prevented Patrick Mahomes from going to the Super Bowl: Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. I think the Bengals are coming back next year. I know they have a lot of free agency on their team, but a healthy Joe Burrow is a scary opponent. I think it's his bounce back year. I think they just lose the AFC Championship to the Chiefs. But again, it's far away. We'll see. That's my prediction.
Unlike you, I am concerned about the free agents on this Bengals roster. I do think that T. Higgins is going to walk. I do think that Tyler Boyd will walk. I do think that Joe Mixon will walk. And that leaves Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase, which is an amazing wide receiver 1, by the way. But with so much money drama with what Jamar's going to get, with what Joe Burrow has, all the money situation,
Yeah.
I just can't, in my good conscience, put the Cincinnati Bengals as AFC North champions. I think the Ravens will repeat. Lamar Jackson, Weak MVP campaign, but he proved once again that he can be the guy in charge. I mean, you have, well, hopefully they have, for their sake, hopefully they have Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I guess it depends on what's going on with his situation.
Yeah, but let's not get into that.
Yeah.
But their defense, vaunted defense. I mean, I can't imagine the Ravens regressing super hard other than maybe a slight offensive step back.
Yeah.
But I do think the Ravens will repeat as AFC North champions. Let's flip to the NFC now.
Sure.
And if we want, let's just start with the East right now.
Yeah, so New York Giants, obvious winners. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys as a repeat winner of the NFC East. Has not happened in over 20 years. And they're going to be, I'm calling it now, I think the NFC East is going to be like, it's going to be a repeat of 2020 when they were just all so bad and the Commanders won. I think the Cowboys just get a little bit over the edge. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders won. It looks like they're going to draft Drake May or Jaden Daniels, and they just hired Dan Quinn as the head coach. He might be cooking something special up for him, but it is the Commanders. I don't know. But I think we're going to be a very weak division, and I think the Cowboys will pull off a win.
I think you saying that the Commanders have like an outside chance, that might be like the craziest thing I've ever heard. I think they finished dead last. It's not even close.
Well, like I just think that the division as a whole is going to be weak next year with the. I think
it'll regress for sure, but
it's possible. I mean, you look at what happened in 2020.
Philadelphia, I think they're going to win the NFC North. Sorry, NFC East. I keep forgetting my divisions right now. I'm sorry, guys. Jalen Hurts has a lot to prove next year. Devontae Smith has a lot to prove next year. The entire Eagles team has a lot to prove next year. There's a lot of drama going on with A.J. Brown. I hope for their sake that he stays because he's a very good threat to have, especially with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts who proved that he can sling it. Yeah. And he complements Devontae Smith well. There's a good running back room. I mean, DeAndre Swift. I don't know how they got DeAndre Swift for a 7th round.
I just think that their defense was very weak in the end of the year. I don't know if I trust Sirianni fully. You know, I don't really like the Eagles, but like I'm just trying to use an outside perspective here. I think that they're about to lose their running back. They're about to lose their future Hall of Fame center, and possibly their wide receiver 1 in A.J. Brown.
I can see the argument for that.
So
let's jump to the NFC South, which I think is probably the most boring conversation that we'll ever have. Yeah. Tampa Bay is my pick solely because they won last year. And Baker Mayfield should stay as the QB1. I really like the culture he brings. And I hope, and I have like a slight feeling that Mike Evans will stay. But if he doesn't, I still think that the wide receiver room can step up, like Chris Godwin, especially in a wide receiver 1 role. I just trust them the most because on every team in the NFC South, they're the most complete to me.
I'm saying Falcons for now because I don't know. I can't really.
Really?
That's
a complete surprise to me. Can you explain a little bit why you think the Falcons will win the South?
I don't trust any of those teams. Like, obviously the Panthers are not going to win, but I think it'll be like another 3-way race between the top.
Okay. And I could see that actually. You're right.
I think the Falcons could get. They're getting a new head coach. They get just a little bit over the edge. They do need to get rid of Desmond Ridder though, I think.
Yes, they need a quarterback badly.
Yeah. And I've been hearing a lot of rumors about Kirk Cousins talking to him, Russell Wilson talking to them. That could do it for him.
Maybe in the universe where Kirk Cousins goes to San Francisco, Brock Purdy goes to Atlanta. I don't know how that would happen. I don't know how you would piece that together. But I think Brock Purdy on the Falcons, I think that could be a good fit, especially because he's going to elevate your team a little bit to the point where you are going to be a competitive team.
I'm curious to see Brock Purdy in another system that like doesn't have all A-tier positions.
Well, with all the talk that his glorious fan base is giving him, he should be able to succeed anywhere.
Yeah.
But I would love to see how that would work out.
We'll see.
Speaking of 49ers, let's jump to the NFC West, where I have San Francisco repeating as champions.
I do. But I think, like you said earlier, it is a Week 18 decision between them and the Rams. I think it is decided between probably that matchup in the final week.
I think Week 18 will determine who the winner of the NFC West will be.
Yeah.
San Francisco, I think if they stick with Brock Purdy, obviously they're going to essentially say the same team. Hopefully Drake Greenlaw gets back soon for their defense. Hopefully they re-sign Chase Young for their defense.
And the Rams, they're you know, they won a Super Bowl and then they only won 5 games next year. They're coming up. I think
Their biggest concern is just staying healthy.
Yeah, the Stafford-Nakua combo was perfect for them this year. I think that if Aaron Donald stays healthy, they'll have like good D-line. Yeah, I think they got a shot.
I think the Rams definitely have a shot, but I just like San Francisco's chances better just because we know they've been a more consistent team in the past 2 years. But anyways, let's go to last but not least, the NFC North.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to choose between.
This is
Green Bay Packers or Detroit Lions.
This is going to be competitive. I think that, not that the Bears have a shot at winning the division, I think they have a shot at a wild card.
The Bears?
Yeah, if they get things right. I think they were kind of on the up and up this year.
What's right for them?
I think they keep Justin Fields, but I doubt that that's what they're going to do.
Okay.
I have the Green Bay Packers winning the division.
I do as well.
I think
actually.
they're a
the
young
Green Bay
team.
Packers winning.
They went into hostile territory in Dallas and crushed them.
Absolutely, like, beat the wheels off of them.
Yeah.
Jordan Love, I don't know what Green Bay's doing to their quarterbacks, but having 3 really good quarterbacks in a row is just unfair. I mean, you go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. What the heck? I had to go through like 17 different quarterbacks before we got Josh Allen. And there's still conversation about Josh Allen.
And Jordan Love had so much to prove this year, and he almost pulled off the upset in San Francisco.
Almost.
That would have been crazy.
Yeah.
They're so close.
I really like what Jordan Love's doing with this Green Bay team. I'm excited to see what their defense will look like now that they got rid of their defensive coordinator. Don't even remember his name. I'm not a Packers fan, but he was so bad, I don't think he deserves to have his name said. But the main reason I chose Green Bay to win is because I think Detroit will fall hard. And not so hard that they miss the playoffs. I still think that they make the wild card, but it's going to be similar to Houston or Tennessee in 2019, where they each had like really good runs, the divisional championship rounds.
Yeah.
I just can't see Dan Campbell's system just like maintaining another division win.
I mean, in my opinion, he should have won Coach of the Year this year. I think that what he did for Detroit and that team and the culture, it was incredible. But there's only so long it can last for, and I think with that NFC's championship game, you kind of got to see how he maybe doesn't make the best decisions when he's under pressure like that.
Yeah. And Jared Goff, great quarterback. I absolutely love Jared Goff in Detroit. I think he's like the quarterback they've been looking for. Sorry, Matthew Stafford.
Well, he's the guy that LA wanted.
Yeah, but and I love the offensive scheme that they have. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds.
Amon-Ra is like he could honestly be like a top 5 receiver.
He's a top 5 receiver for me as well. But I just can't trust Detroit to get things done. They just give the vibe of a fraud that will eventually fall off in the next 2 to 3 years, and they'll be back down in the pits, which breaks my heart to say because I am a really big Lions supporter.
No, they had a great run
Love
this
the
year.
Lake Erie connection that we have with them. But there you have it. Those are our NFL 2024 season divisional winners. Before we sign off, you got a Super Bowl prediction?
Well, I said Chiefs-Packers before we went on, and I think that's what I'm sticking with. I think the Chiefs are going to three-peat, and we're looking at the beginning of a big dynasty for them. Gabe shaking his head in the background, but that's what I think.
I might drop a nuke right here. I'm going to go Chiefs over 49ers again.
We get a rematch.
I think it's going to be another rematch. I just don't trust any other team in the NFC right now more than the 49ers to make it back to the big game.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go Chiefs over 49ers. Mahomes, by that time, I think the debate will be over.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's top 2 or top 3. But hey, we'll figure that out in 1 year.
Yeah.
We're going to take it over to
Chris and Eric.
Chris and Eric.
Yeah.
For college basketball.
And welcome back to another week of college basketball. I'm Chris.
I'm Eric.
And we've got a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah, I think first off, people use some college basketball terms that can be confusing to some people. So we're going to talk a little bit about the net ranking, the KenPom, and what quad 1, 2, and 3, and 4 means, because we will mention those some. So the net ranking, it's kind of like a sorting tool. It evaluates teams for at-large bids. It kind of uses analytics more so than where the AP poll is going to be voters voting. A quad 1 win is 1 through 30 when you're at home. rank 1 through 50 when you're at a neutral site, and 1 through 75 when you're on the road. And then quad 2 is 31 through 75 at home, 51 through 100 at neutral, and then 76 through 135 in away games. And for the most part, quad 3 and 4 are just wins that teams that are contending for the tournament should win anyway. So quad 1 and 2 is where it really matters.
So, Eric, one question I always wanted to ask is, why are quad wins important?
Well, you want those quad 1 wins. Those are your kind of marquee wins. Those are the wins that can show that you beat good teams. Quad 2 shows that you have consistency and that you're not just upsetting teams. And then quad 3 and 4 are like your cupcake games. It's like when Alabama plays, a community college every year because they want a free win.
I see. Thank you. Now, moving on, I guess, with March Madness coming up, how do you feel about Syracuse basketball's outlooks right now, men's basketball?
They're a long shot, but playing in a conference full of good teams is good and bad. The good part is you play good teams. You can get good wins. The bad part is there are a lot of games that you can lose. And for Syracuse, consistency is key. They'll go and beat UNC, and then they'll lose to Georgia Tech. And that's been the issue all year. And then you have like Chris Bell in our win over NC State. He hits 8 threes in the first half, ties the single game record, only shoots 2 more for the rest of the game, and doesn't break the record. It's small things like that that are going to hold this team back.
I see. Now, switching gears, still in the March Madness realm, what are some of the potential bracket busters that you see this March?
I've got 5 teams. Well, actually 6 teams. 2 of them are from the same conference, so it's kind of a whole conference to look at. But the 5 potential bracket busters that I have, the first one is South Carolina. I know they're ranked 20th in the country, but they're only projected to be a 7 seed. They went to the Final Four the last time they were a 7th seed. They have 2 wins over Kentucky and Tennessee. They got them in like 2 straight weeks. They play good defense, and they play just enough offense. And we've seen that work for Virginia. I think it could work for them too. Secondly, I have South Florida. My pick from the American Conference was FAU for a long time, but they've been struggling a little bit. And South Florida's been on the rise. They're number 1 in the American Conference right now. They're going to need the automatic bid. They're going to have to win their conference. But if they do, they'll probably chuck them at like a 12 seed, and that 12-5 is a common upset, and I think USF can be one of those teams.
How do you feel about St. Mary's?
I like them a lot. I think they've finally gotten past, their big brother, which is Gonzaga, and they don't need the automatic bid this year. They will get in as an at-large, even if they don't win their conference, which is good for Gonzaga because Gonzaga has to win the conference. I think 2 teams can make it from the West Coast Conference, but St. Mary's is the team that I see going far.
I see for your final 2, you have Grand Canyon and Indiana State or Drake. How do you feel about those final 3 options?
Yeah, so Grand Canyon, they're going to win their conference. They are running away with it. It would take an upset for them not to, and I think they get in. Their only losses are Seattle and South Carolina. South Carolina's a quad 1 loss. It was early in the season, and they didn't lose another game till Seattle. They only have 2 losses. They're tough every year, and I think if they make it, they're going to be another one of those 12, 13 seeds that's going to upset a 5, that's going to upset a 4. And I could definitely see that. And then for the 2 teams from the Missouri Valley Conference, they've just both been consistent. Neither team, other than Indiana State this past week, has had back-to-back losses. They've split the season series against each other. It's anyone's conference. And they're again going to be one of those 12, 13, 11 seeds. And those seeds tend to upset other teams. I mean, we've seen years where 3 out of the 4 12 seeds win. Right. So it is an upset that is possible in every tournament, and it's the most common one that we see every year.
I see. And finally, we wanted to give you guys the Associated Press's top 10 men's college basketball polls right now. And we have UConn at 24-3, but they did lose number 15, Creighton, last week, an 85-66 loss on the road.
That is the Big East in a nutshell. It is a gauntlet every year, and that's why they get so many teams in, because it is a buzzsaw. It's like the ACC, but I think the Big East is in its prime as we see, and the ACC has lost the amount of depth they used to have. They're almost hurting each other too much at this point. And I think UConn and any of these teams really in the top 10 are your contenders.
I agree. Coming in at 2, we have Houston. They're up 1, and they had a win over number 6 Iowa last week, and they're at Iowa State last week, and they're going to be on the road this Saturday against number 11 Baylor. At 3, we have Purdue, a 73-69 road loss at Ohio State last Sunday, but they're going to be at home against Rutgers tomorrow, so maybe they can get a good, I guess it's a good bounce back game.
I don't know. The thing with Purdue is they always seem to come up short in the tournament. I'm losing faith in them, and I think they're going to be a team that might not lose to the 16 like they did a couple years ago, or even, lose in the second round, but they're a team that in a couple of rounds, they're going to lose when they go up against, the 7 or whatever seed that they come up against. They're going to lose before it becomes the 1-4 matchup or even the 1-2 matchup in the Final Four. That's just the way I see it.
At 4 and 5, we have Arizona and Tennessee. And at 6, we have Iowa State again. They lost to number 2 Houston on Monday, but they have a bounce-back game on Saturday against West Virginia. At number 7, we have Marquette and a 28-point road loss versus number 1 UConn last week. Eric, thoughts on that?
I think, everyone thought, oh my gosh, UConn, they finally got that big win. Everyone was saying they haven't played anyone yet, but then they couldn't back it up against Creighton. Again, the Big East. I think it's the best conference in basketball right now. Maybe the Big 12. It's either the Big 12 or the Big East. They're both strong, and I think between those two conferences, that's where we might find our winner.
Good point right there. At 8, we have Duke. They're playing Miami, Florida tonight, and they had a 76-67 win over Florida State last week. At 9, we have Kansas, a 79-50 road win or road loss to number 23 Texas Tech last week. A huge loss for the Jayhawks. Eric?
Yeah, I think you look at Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, your Blue Bloods, I think their issue, and it's always their issue, is it's consistency. With all the one-and-dones, they lose their whole team every year. You start to look at it and you start to say, well, can you actually coach the freshmen to the big game? And I don't know if they can. It's tough when you have the turnover that they do. I feel like the reason that UConn has been so strong as some of these other teams is they're returning players, they're returning winning players, and you don't see that with Duke, Kansas, and North Carolina anymore.
Absolutely. Again, just as Eric mentioned, UNC is at number 10, and they had a 76-79 loss last week against Syracuse, but they'll be at Virginia this week. Thank you all for watching. That's all from us for today from Good Morning Sports Fan, and have a great rest of your day.